Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about game developers and publishers. Yes, it's that old argument again. And really, looking at it, there's been some interesting developments over the past couple of months in regards to this sort of thing. And there's a couple of key prominent examples that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm not picking on No Man's Sky, by the way. I mean, I've already said my piece on that, and it's very well documented the problems and flaws that have occurred from that particular game and the publisher and developer both involved. But it is a very pertinent part of what we want to talk about today. So as we well know, the game No Man's Sky is developed by Hello Games and published by Sony. Now, Sony have taken not a lot of flack for the game, nowhere near as much as what Hello Games have, despite the fact that obviously Sony are in charge of the publishing, the promotion of the game itself. Now, while No Man's Sky has taken on a lot of that itself and opted to do that on its own accord, so it seems, although, you know, Sony being a massive company, I'm sure will have taken, given them guidelines and whatnot, they, on the whole, have delivered us a product that is not what we all expected, and obviously the PC version being a complete and utter, well, garbage of a port, really, so to speak. Now, Sony have managed to deflect a lot of the attention onto Hello Games. Well, you know, obviously the game is broken, and therefore, you know, Sony needs to do some damage control on what's happened from there, but what they failed to do is realise that they also have an obligation to the gamers themselves and to the developers that they are publishing the game for to make sure that, it hasn't had all the broken promises and whatnot that we've seen. Now, I know Sony has taken a lot of refunds on the game and thereby admitting fault, but they have also thrown Hello Games under the bus. Now, the reason that you have a big publisher as a developer is to take, some of the strain off you, to give, marketing advice. This is a indie company at the end of the day being published by, well, one of the biggest game companies in the world. So in that sense, I'm a little bit upset by how Sony have dealt with this. I felt like probably they could have done a little bit more to help Hello Games and to give them a bit more guidance, and overall just to make sure they weren't publishing what turned out to be a crappy product. And obviously now they're going to take a financial hit because of that, and so they should. But going on in future, Sony, if you're going to publish games by indie developers that, you think you can make a lot of money out of, you really do need to do your job as a publisher. Now, not to say that there is no blame for the developers of Hello Games. Obviously, it is basically now, for all intents and purposes, a failure, no matter what they do in the future, unless they massively resurrect it and release everything that was promised, which I don't really see happening, seeing as the scope of what they were going after is, I would say, unattainable. But it does bring up the interesting debate of publishers over developers, or publishers forcing developers into certain actions, or in this case, throwing them under the bus. So the next one that I want to look at is Deus Ex. Now, I only bought Deus Ex roughly about, a week and a half ago. So I had some time to read reviews and obviously find out what the game was all about. I was a bit on the fence, really, about buying it, mainly because of this whole, augment your pre-order type thing. I suppose that also fits into this particular video as well. But listening to some of the game critics that, get review copies for these sort of games, and one in particular, you may have heard of him, Mr. Jim Sterling, and he had a review copy for Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Now, he played through the game. He really enjoys it. I also really enjoy it, by the way. It is definitely worth picking up, I would say, on balance. And during his review copy, there were no microtransactions in there. And obviously, it's developed by Eidos Montreal, or Eidos Montreal, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and published by Square Enix. So, from one of his insiders, whether, this is true or not, I don't know, but it does make logical sense from what we've seen in the past. And it looks like that the microtransaction part of it was done after the fact. So the reviews are all, or the game was all done proper, sent out to reviewers, as it would be. And then just before release, microtransactions are tacked in. And of course they are. Now, to a lot of people, that's a very important part of their game experience. How it's all set out, whether what you're paying for is exactly what you're getting. And people want to know about that before they buy it. Now, as I say, luckily, I managed to wait a bit, or wasn't sure if I was going to get it or not. So I managed to assess the impact of what the DLC microtransactions was going to have on the game itself. And on balance, I decided that it was probably going to be okay to buy. And just as I thought, really, there doesn't seem to be any need to spend any money. You are just going to progress a lot faster than other people that haven't spent any money. It's quite simple as that. You're basically buying skill points, which does seem a little bit backwards to me, but I don't understand why it's a thing either. But from what Jim Sterling's source was saying, that the developer didn't want to put that in the game, or wasn't planned to put that in the game, but the publisher, Square Enix, decided to do it anyway. So it's a bit more of a greed over substance, really, and there's obviously that conflict there between the two. Now, if you're Eidos and you're just a developer working, to make games, you're perhaps more bothered about the art aspect of the game. You're more bothered about the story, the gameplay, as opposed to how much, nickel and diming you can do, so to speak, of the customer, which of course seems to be the publisher's prerogative nowadays. And, a lot of, from what he was saying, the developers were, not particularly happy with the publisher for putting all this in, because it does tarnish a game. And the fact that it wasn't there from the beginning for reviewers to see is quite underhand. I don't think there's any way of looking at it other than that. So I'd like to see a bit of a change in the culture, but the other thing really I wanted to get home is that, well, yes, developers at the end of the day are responsible for what's, in their game, whether their game is fun or good, if the mechanics work, all that good stuff. But we do also need to place some of the blame on the publishers when this sort of stuff happens, because, they're the ones at the end of the day that more so, not completely, but more so, have got the dollar signs in their eyes. That's what they're after. They want the pre-orders, they want the microtransactions, they want the DLC. And they want the developers to give them a platform where they're able to sell that. Whereas, this might not be the same for all publishers, but from the developer's side of it, at least from, having some practical experience in that myself, you're more bothered about the art, the social importance, the story, the ambience, all the other stuff that a good publisher in my eyes should care about these things, but we're in a corporate world now. Now we always have been. So they're more bothered, not so much about the passion, the art, the social context, the narrative, anything like that. They're bothered about the bottom line, the money, the figures, the stats. And while, okay, they also have to look at it from the standpoint of, well, if we do some dodgy stuff, then people are going to cancel their games, get refunds from Steam, not going to buy our future games. There's only so many times we can pull it, right? Or not. I don't know. Sorry about that, by the way. And I just think that when we're assessing these things from now on, we do need to sort of question the difference between the developer and the publisher. And I know it's difficult for the developer because they can't come out and call out their publisher. Let's be honest, they're the ones that have marketed the game, potentially. Obviously, if you've got an indie company, they're the ones that push the game, and they're the ones at the end of the day that are financially responsible for producing the game and distributing it, and all that other stuff that goes with it. I know it's very in-depth, but anyway, that's just how I feel about it. If you guys got any comments or queries, leave them down below. I'd be interested to hear about them. And yeah, I don't know if this has given you any food for thought, but it has been something I've personally been thinking about recently. And yeah, just thought it might be a topic of discussion for many people. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I will see you all very soon. Goodbye.